All right, we are live here with Halftime Hits, the first rendition of Halftime Hits of the 2021 season. Hopefully, we get off to a better start than your Tennessee Titans did. I'm joined here by the host of Coach's Corner with me at Ryan on Broadway, Ryan Watson here with me. As always, I am JB on Broad. Check out all of the great material at BroadwaySportsMedia.com. And just a little plug here. You can obviously check us out every Tuesday at 8 p.m. from Wild Hair Beer Company here in Spring Hill, Tennessee. So let's not dabble around with promotions here and let's get right into it. Ryan, your thoughts on that very exciting first half?
I'd rather talk about the promotions, to be honest with you, and plug Broadway a little bit more because I don't have a ton great to say about the Titans. It was a slow start on offense. I thought defense did well considering the situations they were put in. They're getting some pressure on Kyler Murray, but Kyler Murray's doing Kyler Murray things on defense. He's making her in big situations. Surprising to me, all the drops from Julio, the missteps by Taylor Lewan, try to block the pass rush. It's almost like this offense could have used some preseason practice or preseason
Yeah,
game
it
reps.
sounds very reminiscent of maybe some rust that they're trying to work off here. And we talked about it this week on the coaches pod is that, look, I don't necessarily think that preseason is super important, but this team went into it and said that it 100% is not a factor and is not important to this team. And what we say, just like last year when you didn't name Shane Bowen your defensive coordinator, you open yourself up to criticism. So
Mhm.
not playing him, not playing the offense really at all. Taylor Lewan got a couple of reps. He looked great in the preseason, not so great this game is you open yourself up to criticism because you have not been out there. And this is a team that looks very rusty. There is no consistency. And ultimately, I think all the criticism is deserved at this point. You're professionals. You should expect to be out there. And if you choose not to take those practice reps, you damn well better be ready.
I joked they looked rustier than when Rusty Smith used to play quarterback for the Titans because it just looked bad there at the start. They couldn't get anything going. The offense was constantly starting from behind. They weren't attacking. And here's the worst part was it took them to almost the entire first half to start using their shiny weapons on the outside, A.J. Brown and Julio Jones. And when they did go to Julio Jones, he had the drops, as I mentioned earlier. So all that's frustrating. And then Tannehill was making some questionable decisions. Like I know it doesn't show up in the box score, but he clearly threw a screen pass ill-advised instead of throwing it at the feet of I guess it was McNichols. He throws it try to make something happen. It's almost pick six right there. So this, I mean, I don't know if the score could be worse, but it's hard to imagine it being worse than it is. But it's just been a whole lot of rust, and we're going to say that a couple more times. I think Mr. Lebowski on Twitter said they look rustier than a cast iron skillet that's been left in the rain for 3 days. So it's not going well for them.
Let's talk about the offensive line because obviously there was a lot of talk coming into this game around who's going to start at right tackle, what were you going to get out of there. They're talking about maybe doing a rotation, and ultimately the right tackle has been the better of the two tackles today.
Yeah, obviously, I'll have to check out the Game Pass afterwards to just break down the plays and look through to see how much help he's getting out there. It doesn't appear that Quest has been getting a whole lot of help, but you haven't had to talk about him at all during the first half, which is, like I said on the show this week, is what you want out of a right tackle. If you're not being talked about, you're doing your job. We talked about Lawan a ton this first half because he gave up some big plays. I think the big sack fumble recovery was off the Questenberry side, but it was a naked boot, which those should be fired into the sun until further notice. But yeah, so it's offensive line is more concerning though. Some of your veterans like Stafford's been pushed around a little bit. I've seen Nate Davis miss some pickups at the second level, which he has been really elite at so far in his young career. So you have two guys that you normally count on at your guards and your Pro Bowl tackle not blocking pass rushing. It's not going to be a good day for your offense. I can understand why Henry's not getting anything going and why Tannehill doesn't have the time to maybe throw to some of those deeper developing routes to make an impact.
Yeah, you talk about rust, and that's ultimately the theme that I've seen right here. If Taylor Lewan gives up one sack to Chandler Jones, even two sacks in a game, I mean, Chandler Jones is one of the best pass rushers in the NFL, so you're not too angry about it.
First quarter.
But three in the first quarter, you're just completely outclassed at that point. And now let's also remember this is his first real game coming off a torn ACL.
Sure.
There could be some rust there, not just from not getting a ton of reps in practice and in preseason.
Right.
So Do we give him a little bit of slack? Absolutely, but let's also not sit here and mince words. He has been terrible in this first half.
Yeah, the coach staff maybe try to get that's one of the adjustments I have is maybe get him some help, maybe see if you need to scheme something to alleviate that. The Cardinals there in the late second half took Chandler Jones off a long one. I found myself going, "Thank you. That was unneeded, but I appreciate it."
Yep. So let's pivot a little bit. Let's go to the other side of the ball. And I think everybody coming into this season had their questions around the Titans defense. And this is a weird situation where, for me, you come into this, and it's hard to say that you thought a unit played fairly well after giving up 24 points. I don't have a ton of complaints about the defense. Look, 7 points, the offense pretty much gifted to the Cardinals, and then Kyler Murray has made some pretty stellar plays. He's healthy, so you're seeing some impact of him being able to run around back there. I don't have a ton of complaints. I do have some thoughts on one player on the defense, but I'm gonna let you go first. So, what are your thoughts on what you're seeing from
I
the defense?
I like that the pass rush looks active. At least they're attempting moves. They're getting attacking. Even they're not getting Kyler Murray down, but they're making him comfortable. And of course, he's making plays off the seat of his pants. I mean, he's just playing phenomenally. Tip your cap to that guy. He's capable of doing it. He's clearly healthy and he's running around. So I do like that the pass rush is active instead of Kyler Murray. You don't want him to just sit back there and be comfortable. You want to try to make him uncomfortable. So at least they're doing that. My problem is the missed tackles. The other side of that is that they're not getting that. It's not just him. It seems like a lot of Titans are having trouble tackling downfield and a lot of things. There's some phantom face mask calls, I think, on Jackrabbits, things like that. So more complaints about that. But as a whole, the defense isn't playing terribly. I know, like you said, it's hard to say in 24 points, but I don't have a whole lot of complaints. They're just doing what they can with the situation that's in front of them.
Yeah, you talked about the offense isn't giving them much rest. You talk about are they getting a ton of sacks? Obviously, they're not, but they're also not necessarily trying to get a ton of sacks in this game, and you can't. When you look at a guy like Kyler Murray, he's one of those few guys that have ever played in this game that can truly play backyard football. He's just that good of an athlete. So he gets out there, and that's kind of what you're seeing from a pass rush perspective. What the Titans are doing is they're not trying to get too far upfield because whenever you do that, you're going to open up those rushing lanes for Kyler Murray to get out there, and you have to be able to protect yourself against that. So they're not necessarily trying to get him down. They're trying to contain him in the pocket and not let him run around on them. So I'm not too upset. I think they are getting pressure on him. He's made some great plays. We talk about. I see one comment in here around Jackrabbit and getting abused. I don't think he's been too terrible. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins is arguably the best wide receiver in the NFL. He's gonna make some plays. Look, I said I wanted to make a comment about one player. In my opinion, the worst player on the Titans defense this half has been Kevin Byard. You talk about it, he had a down year last year, and he has been
Starting
late.
off well.
Yeah, he has been late to rotate on two different blitzes that have caused some big plays
Luckily,
for him.
AJ Green was out of bounds on one of them, but he was way late over there. And they said, "Oh, look at the cushion they're getting. Quick cushion. He's late getting over
Yeah,
there."
you saw a corner blitz come in there. He's got to get into position. We know the touchdown pass from DeAndre Hopkins where he got matched up with Byard there. Yes, he made Byard look foolish on a cutback, but that's not really even my concern. Whenever you know that your guy is going to be blitzing out of the slot, you got to be able to come downhill and get in position. You can't. I saw Teron Davenport from ESPN. He said the same thing. He said there's something to be said about disguising a blitz, but you have to be in position.
Right.
And frankly, he has not gotten himself into
Get to
position.
get to your responsibility and get there with a purpose, and that's not what you're saying. There wasn't all bad in the secondary. I wanted you to touch on real quick that Molden and Fulton had a couple good plays in the first half.
It has been a long time since I have seen a Titans DB group actually play some of those call them rub routes, legal pick plays
yeah.
correctly. And you talk about you got to have levels in that defense. He engages the slot receiver when they're trying to go underneath him to create that natural rub. He engages it, and you see the two receivers run into each other. That's exactly how you need to play that kind of route. And to see that from a guy playing in his first full time game, that's 100% exactly what you want. And I know Chris Jackson was technically the starter coming in, but it's going to be hard to take a rookie off the field based on what I've seen from him in this game. He's competing, he's smart, he's in position, and he's just doing the basics correctly, which sometimes, especially in game one, that's what you need to do. Because frankly, especially you can even flip it back over to the Cardinals and what they've seen on offense. They've been moving the ball up and down the field. When you talk about the basics, they keep shooting themselves in the foot. There's a lot of game one mishaps here on both sides of the football, but Elijah Molden has kind of been a bright spot. And then you talk about Christian Fulton, young guy getting matched up against some stellar wide receivers on the other side, and he's competing. And I will say this about the reffing. They're letting them play. I don't know if this is a one-game anomaly or if it's gonna be more of a consistent thing throughout the season,
Right.
but they are letting the DBs compete, and as a former DB coach, I love to see it because, look, you especially against a guy like DeAndre Hopkins and AJ Green, he's not as bad about it, but he has it in there. You see those push-offs that go uncalled against DBs, and they're letting the DBs actually get aggressive on it and play against them, so it's been nice to see. Look, we get to talk about the second half. What are your thoughts about the second half?
Well, the second half is I want to see the offense be a little more confident in themselves, a little more loose with their play calling, a little more aggressive, like you saw towards the end there. I've always thought that the Titans look really good trying to close out a half or when they're being stagnant. Go to that a little more. I mean, you've got to get positive yards, on a first down. You've got to get positive plays in the book. So Derrick Henry, the offensive line has got to block better for Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry's got to establish some dominance in this game. But the Titans also have to mix it up a little bit, not run every first down and not put themselves behind the sticks or in bad second and long situations constantly. Defensively, just keep doing what you're doing, in my opinion, and just uh, pep talk to do the assignments a little better. I mean, they're doing a decent job. Offense has got to keep off the field and get back and claw back in this game.
Yeah, I
Oh,
think
and stop kicking.
yeah,
Just
just
stop
just
kicking.
stop kicking. And that's the most consistent thing they carried over from last season. And ultimately, it's something. Can they come back in this half? Sure. Do they need to get a big stop coming out at halftime? Yep, 100%. You get something. If you give up a touchdown here, it's going to be really hard to come back from more than 18 points in that one half of football. Can it be done? Sure. You got to get your stars involved. You got to get AJ Brown. Julio Jones has had some opportunities. He's had some plays that I'll call are they tough plays? Absolutely,
That's Julio Jones.
but exactly. Your level of expectation is different when you're Julio Jones. You gotta make those tough catches. And the Titans are in a little bit of an identity crisis. You wanna run the football, but right now, especially down 18, you gotta come out firing. You gotta take advantage of where the Cardinals are weakest, and can your offensive line hold up and give them time to actually make a comeback? And you can't play scared. Nope, you can't. You can't kick a field goal on 4th and 1. I see the comments coming in here. I completely agree. You can't kick that field goal. Be
Can't.
aware of what the game situation is. Give yourself the best chance to win. And kicking a field goal, even if you make it, doesn't give yourself the best chance to win.
Nope. 24-9 at that point. What are you hoping for? You got to go for it.
So we're getting ready to start the second half here. Do want to give another quick shout out to our Tuesday show every Tuesday live at 8 p.m. Central Time from Wild Hair Beer Company here in Spring Hill, Tennessee. Love to have people come out or just tune into the show. Also, check out BroadwaySportsMedia.com. I think we got a lot of good stuff there. And you can always follow myself and Ryan on Twitter at JB on Broad and at Ryan on Broadway.
See you after the game.
See ya.